Listen, guys, if you have not heard about the Anchor app, it is the easiest way to start a podcast today, and let me tell you why. For one, there is no charge. Yay, it is free, my G. Plus, all the tools you need to record and edit are right there on the app, so you can do it all from your phone. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go ahead and download the Anchor app. Tell your friends, tell your family, download the Anchor app, and you can tell them Eric Payne said it. Oh, yes, sir. Hey, if that beat don't get you up out your seat, man, I don't know what will. But, hey, Payne Said It Podcast, Ep.1. We here, we lit, man. Hey, I've been sitting with the idea of this podcast for a while. But, as they say, it's better late than never. And I'm starting off today, June 1st, 2020. If y'all did not know, this is a sports podcast. If you love sports the way I do, I promise you that you will enjoy this podcast. I'm going to say that one more time. If you love sports the way I do, I promise you, you will enjoy this podcast. I'll be talking about all type of stuff, from sports topics that I just think about on a daily, or things that's happening in the world of sports right now. Obviously, ain't nothing happening right now because COVID-19, but it'll pick back up. I want this podcast to be really interactive. I want your guys' input on every episode. So if you're not following the Payne Said It Podcast Instagram, please go follow that. It is at Payne Said It Podcast on Instagram. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. Follow at Payne Said It Podcast on Instagram. I will post every episode on that page, and I want y'all to comment y'all thoughts and opinions, whether you agree or disagree. I will try to respond to everybody that I can, so go ahead and comment what y'all think. When y'all done listening to this, go to that Instagram page and tell me y'all opinions. Hey, without further ado, let's get into today's topic, which is wide receivers of the 2000s decade. Who was the best? Who's in your top three? Now, before I get into my list, I want to explain what I mean by best. Best is not greatest. When you're talking about greatest, you're talking about all type of things, from all first team All Pros to Super Bowls to accolades, from records. But when I'm talking about best, I'm talking about from a skill point. Were you the best of that generation? So, starting off with some honorable mentions. Marvin Harrison was an absolute beast. He's probably the best receiver that Peyton Manning ever played with. I mean, when you have Reggie Wayne on the other side and he's the number 2 guy, yeah, you was a beast, man. But I just feel like these other 3 guys were just a slight bit better. Another honorable mention is Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt had like 2 1,600-yard receiver seasons. Like, it's not no easy thing to do that. Only a couple receivers ever in the history of the game done did that. Like, Torrey Holt was something serious. But same thing with Marvin Harrison. I feel like these other 3 guys were just a little bit better. Starting off with number 3 on this list, Randy Moss. Now, y'all probably listening, and y'all probably making a weird face right now, like, Randy Moss at 3? But let me tell you why. Like, of course, Randy Moss was great. Like, 4 Pro Bowls in the 2000s, 3 first-team All-Pros. Like, dude was great. Like, he would take off the top off the defense with ease. You knew he was gonna run a bomb. You knew he was gonna run a post. You knew he was going deep, and you still couldn't stop it. But the thing with Randy Moss was he wasn't gonna run the full route tree. You think Randy Moss was gonna cross that middle? It wasn't happening. He wasn't gonna run no dig. He wasn't running no slants. Like, Randy Moss wasn't going to do that. He was going to take the top off the defense. That's what he could do. But he was so great at what he did, I couldn't leave him off this list. Another thing that was wrong, in my opinion, about Randy Moss, he didn't give 100% all the time. Like, his stats could have been way better overall his career if he gave 100% every game, every down. But he didn't. And that's what a lot of people have said about Randy Moss. He probably could have been the best of all time. He was probably the most talented person out of the three that I got on my top 3 list. But moving on to number 2, Terrell Owens. He had 6 Pro Bowls in the 2000s and 5 first team All-Pros. That is crazy. Out of 10 years, he was 5-time first team All-Pro. He was considered one of the top 2 wide receivers for half the decade. But he probably had the best stats out of the 3. But thing with T.O., he always had a problem with the quarterback. No matter if it was Donovan McNabb, Jeff Garcia, or he liked Tony Romo, but he ended up having a problem with Tony Romo too. Like, every team that he went to, he had a problem with the quarterback, and that's what derails Terrell Owens, in my opinion. His effect on the team derails Terrell Owens. Why is he above Randy? He was a more versatile receiver than Randy. He was going to run more routes than Randy. But he's just not better than this next guy, who's at number 1. The receiver that's at number 1 on this list is Chad Johnson, a.k.a. Ocho Cinco. 6 Pro Bowls. He was 2-time first team All-Pro. And why is he at number 1? His route running. As a receiver, I feel like the route running is the most important. Why is route running the most important? Because if you can't run no good routes, if you can't create separation, the quarterback not looking your way regardless. He not throwing you the ball. You just out there just to be out there. The quarterback not looking your way. He gonna look at you, then look the other way because the cornerback draped all over you. Chad Johnson was the best route runner of the 2000s and probably of all time. Like, the way he could run full speed, stop on a dime, and cut ding. He get, like, bro. Chad Johnson was an absolute monster when it came to route running. Like, nobody could really guard him one-on-one. Bill Belichick told you that. He said he don't care who was guarding him. He was not going to run man-to-man coverage when they played the Bengals. He wasn't going to do it. He was going to stay in that zone. Hey, if you don't take it from me, though. Take it from Darrelle Revis, a.k.a. Revis Island. He's known as one of the best cornerbacks of all time. He had to stick all 3 of those guys. He had to stick Chad. He had to stick Terrell Owens. He had to stick Randy Moss. But he said that Chad Johnson was the best route runner of all time, in his opinion. That's Darrelle Revis saying that now. Darrelle Revis Island. He shut down all 3 of these guys at least once. But he said Chad Johnson was the best route runner of all time. So, obviously, Chad doesn't have the same stats as Terrell Owens or Randy Moss. But I'll offer some reasons as to why that was. Randy Moss and Terrell Owens had better quarterbacks. They had way better quarterbacks than Chad had. Chad had Carson Palmer for most of his career. Now, Carson Palmer wasn't no scrub. Like, he was average. He made a couple Pro Bowls. But he wasn't no Dante Culpepper or no Donovan McNabb or no Tony Romo. And he for damn sure wasn't no Tom Brady. These are the quarterbacks that T.O. and Randy Moss got a chance to play with, and Chad had Carson Palmer. I mean, it's levels to it, man. Carson Palmer threw a lot of inaccurate passes. I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to call it from the film that I seen. Carson Palmer threw a lot of inaccurate passes. Another reason that he may not have the same stats as Randy Moss or Terrell Owens, he played in the division with the Ravens and the Steelers of the 2000s. I'm talking about the Ravens with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and the Steelers with Troy Polamalu and James Harrison and all those guys. Like, bro, if you didn't know, the Ravens and the Steelers had top 5, top 10 defenses all throughout the whole decade of the 2000s. Like, bro, nobody wanted to go up against the Ravens Steelers defenses. Those defenses were absolutely nutty, and Chad had to play against both of those teams twice a year, every single year. So that's 4 games out the year. You're facing Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu. 4 times a year you're facing that, and he still put up maybe not the better numbers, but he put up comparable numbers to T.O. and Randy Moss going with all those obstacles, man. And if you know me, I respect guys more when you have maybe not the best quarterback and you can still produce. That's why I think DeAndre Hopkins is the best receiver. The best receiver in the league now. Like he had people like T.J. Yates as his quarterback, and he still was putting up numbers. But that's another episode for another day. But to recap, my list of the best receivers of the 2000s. At number 3, Randy Moss. Number 2, Terrell Owens. And number 1, Chad Johnson. And you could tell him Eric Payne said it. Hey, but before I get out of here, I just want to talk about these recent actions that's been going on, these recent protests. I'm for it. I love these protests. But the protests can't be the end all be all. We have to have a plan as a people. We have to understand that protesting isn't gonna be a long-term solution. We have to come up with a plan. We have to strategize what we're going to do next to prevent these events, these police brutality from happening again. Because let's be real, we done protesting before. We been protesting. 30 years ago, we were protesting the Rodney King situation. 30 years later, we are still protesting. So we need to do something else. Protesting cannot be the end all be all. And another thing, these police officers, every one of them that has done this in the past, all of them need to be locked up. And you can tell them Eric Payne said that too. But I'm going to get on out of here, man. This is the first episode of the Payne Said It Podcast. Like I said before, go follow the Payne Said It Podcast Instagram at Payne Said It Podcast. And give me y'all opinions on this episode. But I'm out, man. Let's get out. We back at it next week with another topic. We stay consistent with this podcast. But hey, man, I'm out, bro.